Hi and welcome back to my channel, Sunshine Morena. So today I am going to be wrapping up all the books I read in March. I read 10 books in March, so again another great month. It was one more than February. I did read quite a few short books though, like novellas, so that's why the number seems higher. But yeah, I read various different genres, had really lots of fun reading the books I did read. But yes, I'm not going to ramble on, I'm just going to get into speaking about the books, and I'm going to try not to speak too much about them, otherwise this will be a really long video. So the first book that I picked up, but I didn't finish until almost towards the end of the month, was Dracula, which was one of the 10 classics that I want to read in 2021, because, well, it's classic gothic horror novel and I wanted to see what it was all about. I gave it 2.5. I'm just going to get straight to the point. 2.5. I think, yeah, it just dragged. There's so much in there that I think could have just been cut down. I feel like he just kept on going at points when you didn't need to, like dragging things out. It was really slow. Yeah, it was really slow. I think part of the downfall of this book is everyone knows what Dracula's about. You know, he's a vampire. Everyone knows that. So popular culture has kind of ruined it because, you know, at the beginning you can see it's building this mystery around, like something's going on, he's a bit strange, he's a bit weird, but you know already what it is. The writing didn't exactly draw me in either, whereas Frankenstein, like, I love that writing. I also love the fact in Frankenstein that you got to also see from the monster's perspective, whereas in this, Dracula is a character, like you have dialogue etc from him for about the first 60 pages, and then that's it. Like, he is still in the book, like he appears here and there, and like in the last half he's in it more, but he disappears for a good chunk, and yeah, he isn't actually like a character that you really interact in your dialogue really that much after that point of the first 60 pages, which is kind of misleading because it's called Dracula, so I genuinely thought, you know, it's going to be a lot of Dracula in it, and it's not. There's other characters that feature more, but yeah, it just dragged, and I know I'm not the only one. I think seems to have mixed reviews on Goodreads and Storygraph. On Goodreads I actually saw Kat from Paperback Dreams review, and it seems that she read this first before she read Frankenstein, so she went back and demoted this down to a 2 because she's like, yeah, it does not compare to Frankenstein, and yeah, it's just, you could have cut it down, like, just, yeah. Also, it's like 500-ish pages, and Penguin Classics, I have come to realise, make you feel like the book isn't that long, but actually it is, because it doesn't look like a 500-page book. But anyway, rant over. It took me like 26 days to get through that. I obviously read other books in between, but it dragged. So next, the first book I actually finished in March was British, on Race, Identity and Belonging, and it's by Afua Hirsch. This is a non-fiction book. I didn't rate it. I find it a little bit difficult at times to rate non-fiction, because it's not like I get that same feeling like I do when I read fiction. So essentially this is about identity. It's her exploring her identity. She's mixed race, so it's exploring both sides of her, also how she fits into being British, and then there's like historical information in there as well. This is an exploration of what it means to be British and not essentially being white, what it means, what kind of things. It's her own personal journey as well. But yes, I really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook while I was reading the ebook, and it is narrated by her. Recommend it, definitely. Next, I read Jiang Born 1982, and this is written by Chu Namju. This is a South Korean fiction novel. It is quite a short one. It's about 50-ish pages. I read this on ebook. It follows essentially our main character from childhood into womanhood. It's as she's also becoming a mother herself, and it just goes through all those different points in her life and what it means to be a girl and woman in South Korea, the kind of discrimination that she's faced, how women are treated, and the things she's had to give up. And yeah, it's really good. I gave it 5 stars. And yeah, so it's just, yeah, it's the treatment of women essentially, and it's really good. I definitely recommend it. And it's a great piece of translated fiction, which I'm trying to pick up more of, because you find such great books like this. So yeah, recommend. Next, I picked up 1984 by George Orwell, which is a classic, modern classic, I think it technically is, and it's a Rory Gilmore book. I realised that I hadn't been picking any of those off the list, and I went to read 20 this year, so I had to tick this one off. I gave this a 4-star. I can see exactly why it has that classic status and why people enjoy it so much, and essentially that's where Big Brother came from, is from this book. He wrote it at the end of the 40s, beginning of the 50s, and it was set in 1984, and it's a dystopian sci-fi type book. So yeah, it's just about like kind of Big Brother and being watched and how things have kind of changed, how, yeah, it's dystopian. I don't know exactly how to explain everything, but it was really, really interesting to see kind of that Big Brother's watching type thing, how people fall into following everything blindly, others who obviously go against certain things. And yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Again, recommend. I can see why so many people love this book, and it's one that I think in the future that I will definitely come back to and reread. Then I took part in the Women in Horror Readathon hosted by Read by Beth, and this is where I picked up a few more kind of novella length books. The first one was Dear Laura, and it's by Jiang Born. She is a British author, and this was about 115 pages. So, like I said, it wasn't too long. It is a short horror novel. So each year on her birthday, Laura gets a letter from someone, a stranger. She doesn't know who it is, and that person claims to know where the bodies of her missing friend. And they'll give a clue as to where it is, but she has to kind of give something up in exchange, something personal. So she's kind of following the demands of this stranger. And yeah, she doesn't seem to be able to kind of escape these demands, and doesn't know how long it's going to go on for. I don't want to say too much else because I don't want to give it away, but I did really enjoy it. I don't know if I said, but I gave it 4 stars. I think it's really good, and it's not something that I've really seen people speaking about, so it's a good one to get on your radar. Next, within the readathon, I picked up Sticky Fingers by J.T. Lawrence. This was a collection of 12 short stories, and this was marketed as fiction horror stories. Now personally, there was only one, which was called The H, which I thought kind of was more on the horror side. The rest of them, to me, they weren't really horror ones, and I'm not somebody who's actually, I've been reading in the genre, but not too much. But yeah, it didn't, but they weren't badly written, they were good stories. It's just that they weren't what I was led to believe they were, if that makes sense. So I ended up giving this a 3-star because I did enjoy the writing. I can't fault the writing, it was good writing. I enjoyed the short stories, it just isn't lived up to that, what it's marketed as. But yeah, I do recommend them, they are enjoyable, just don't go in thinking it's a whole collection of horror stories. Then the last one I read within the Women in Horror Readathon was The Haunting of Nelson Street, and that's by Amy Cross. This was a little bit longer than other ones, and again, she's British. It's set in some small town towards the coast, and it's like some little sleepy town. This couple from who are living in London decide to. So my battery died. So I was speaking before my battery died. I was speaking about the haunting of Nelson Street. Yeah, so this couple moved from London. They want to escape. Something's happened, and they want to get away from whatever it is. So they buy 2 houses in this small town. One is fine; they can move in straight away, and then the other one is like it needs refurbishing basically because there'd been a fire. So they completely need to like fix it up, and so it's like a little renovation project for them. Because it turns out that something happened on this Nelson Street, which is part of this mystery in the story. There's a really good twist at the end that I did not see coming. Yes, it was a really enjoyable read. In the end, I gave it a 3-star. It was enjoyable. There was those mystery elements. Yeah, I think it could have been developed just a little bit more because it was on the shorter side, but I definitely enjoyed it. Then I picked up Behind Her Eyes, and that's by Sarah N. Pinborough. So this is like now a Netflix series, which is what prompted me to read it. So I read it and then watched the series. Because I find if I'd watched the adaptation, I would never pick up the book because I already know the twist coming. I'd rather do it the other way around. You know, I'd rather see it adapted, and yeah, to me that makes sense. It might not to you. So in the end, I gave this a 3.5. I did enjoy myself. I found that to begin with, it's a little bit slow, and there's a little bit of a slow build. You won't see the twist coming. I'm telling you that. There's a couple of twists. I never saw them coming. Yeah, you will not see the twist. I think it was a really good twist, which made me enjoy it. But like I said, for a good part of the book, it's a slow build, slowly. It's not. I quite like more fast-paced thrillers, which is why it didn't, rate very high for me. But it's still a thoroughly enjoyable read, and the adaptation's good. And like the book, the adaptation, it's only like the last couple of episodes where the main build and action happens, and which is kind of like the book as well. But yeah, I recommend for a unique twist and a thriller that I haven't seen before. I then did a 24-hour reading challenge, which is up on my channel already, so you can go and check that out. So the first book I picked up for that was The Islanders by S.V. Leonard. This was a new release in March. I just heard the premise. I heard it being described as murder mystery thriller meets Love Island, and it was sold for me. Basically, our main character Kim, she's an ex-police officer. She left the force about 5 years ago, and her life is very different to how it was. You don't know why she left or what the reason is, but her life is a bit of a mess when you meet her at the start of this book. She works as a barmaid. She's got bills piling up. She's not very reliable. She seems to drink a lot, and she ends up actually getting fired from her job. So she gets, at the same time, this show called Love Wrecked, where you have contestants that couple up and there's challenges, etc., and it takes place on an island, is revived. It's been on a hiatus, and instead of doing like in previous years where you had to apply, it was a mixture of being applied and randomly selecting some people. This time they're just randomly selecting people from the British public, and Kim is one of these people. How she ends up saying yes to it because of the cash prize, which is £200,000 to be split between the winning couple. And she kind of wants it so she can obviously pay off all those debts she has, and she can start afresh, a new life, and she kind of needs the money, so that's why she agrees to it. She flies to Crete, and then they get picked up and get taken on a boat to go to the island where the villa is. It's literally just that villa on the island. So it's a very like secluded location. It's just her and 5 others that are on this boat, and they go across. There is supposed to be more contestants as well, and basically, they start the show, and then one of the contestants turns up dead, and she ends up being tasked with trying to find out who the murderer is. The catch is that every hour it takes her to work out who the murderer is, another contestant will turn up dead. so there's kind of like a rush to try and figure out who it is. It's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun reading this. I gave it 4 stars. It's really fun. Yeah, I just really enjoyed myself. Again, the twist and stuff, the reveal, I didn't see coming. And yes, I wish I could imagine myself reading this next to a pool, on a lounger, or at the beach. It just gave me that kind of vibe, and I flew through it, so 100% recommend. And then I picked up The Passengers by John Mars, and this book has, the premise sounds like a Black Mirror's episode, and I've mentioned this before. I said this was my anticipated read, and it's on my spring TBR. I actually read one. Yay, 9 to go. But this is set a little bit in the future, where there is now like automated cars, so people don't, there's different levels, but people basically don't actually drive anymore. The car drives itself, these self-drive cars, which means that you can also like legally drink and drive because you're not actually driving. Insurance is cheaper because people aren't in charge of it anymore. However, and they're supposed to be unhijackable. You can't like hijack them, like anyway, or hackable, unhackable, yeah. However, one day 8 cars get hacked and they get set on a collision course to crash, and there is a hijacker and there's demands being made. It's being showed across social media, news, everyone knows what's going on, and yes, there's decisions that has to be made by people, and various different, like basically everyone has a decision to make of who lives, who dies, who survives this. And yes, I found it quite fast paced, and I really enjoyed it. Again, the twists at the end, didn't see them coming. I think it's a really good thriller. It definitely felt like a Black Mirror episode, which I need to really rewatch that because I really enjoy them. And yes, I had fun reading it, and I do recommend it. There are a couple of other books that he's written that I really want to get to that also have kind of Black Mirror premises, which is The Minders and The One. They sound really fun. But yes, I really enjoy The Passengers. Again, it's in my vlog, so you can see my full opinions, and I gave this a 4 star. And that was the last book of the month that I fully read. I did start another one, but I'm not going to tell you which it is because it was literally the last day of March, and it's going to be in some other videos coming up. But yes, overall I had a really good month reading. I had lots of fun. Read quite a few thrillers. I'm really enjoying reading them again. And yes, that's it. That's all I read. Let me know. Let me know what you read in March. If you're reading the books that I have, and what you thought of them. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. Comment, like, subscribe. And yeah, until next time. Bye.